Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if I told you your thoughts didn't just shape your reality, but also your bank account and maybe even your afterlife? Well, today we're diving deep into a really potent speech from 1991 that claims exactly that. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with this miracle he used as proof positive. Then we'll get into the core idea that your mind literally creates your reality. From there, we'll look at why he thinks a poverty mindset is so dangerous, where that thinking can actually lead you after this life is over, and then we'll wrap up with his pretty radical vision for a wealthy, responsible, and, well, utopian society. The speaker doesn't kick things off with some abstract theory. Nope. He starts with what's basically a victory lap. He points to his organization's just insane growth and says, look, this isn't just good marketing, folks. This is proof. Proof that a spiritual law is really at work here. Okay, get this. At the beginning of 1991, his organization had, maybe tens of thousands of members. But their goal for that year, 1 million. To any normal person looking at the numbers, this wasn't just ambitious, it was completely delusional. I mean, just look at those numbers. From 15,000 to almost a million in a single year. But here's the really crucial part of his argument. He doesn't call this a business success story. He calls it Exhibit A, hard, tangible evidence that a powerful, collective belief can literally bend the rules of our physical world. And this leads us right to the heart of his entire philosophy. The idea that your mind, if you use it the right way, doesn't actually have to play by the normal rules of cause and effect. It can actually break them. His logic is actually pretty straightforward. If God created the entire universe out of pure thought, then we, as children of God, must have a tiny spark of that same creative power. We should be able to literally think our way out of our problems. So why don't we? Well, according to him, it's because most people are totally trapped in a destructive mindset. And this brings us to the main villain of his story. A way of thinking that doesn't just tolerate poverty, but actually celebrates it, justifies it. A mindset that, as he puts it, loves being in a state of lack. This slide just lays it out so clearly, right? You've got two paths. One side is always looking outward, blaming someone else for their failures. The other side looks inward and just asks, okay, what can I do to succeed? He points to Marxism as this huge real-world example of the poverty mindset, arguing that by turning poverty into a virtue and wealth into a sin, it basically guaranteed its followers would always be stuck in scarcity. And this is where the stakes get really, really big. For the speaker, this isn't just about how much money you have in the bank. The mindset you choose to live with right here on Earth will directly create your reality long, long after you're gone. And you see how this idea just builds right into the spiritual plane. He makes this incredibly bold claim. Heaven and hell aren't places God sends you. They're places you send yourself. It's all based on the dominant mindset you practiced while you were on Earth. It's just a continuation of your own mental habits. He paints this incredibly vivid picture of these hells. For example, the hell of insatiable greed. He describes it as a place where you're perpetually starving, and suddenly you see a beautiful banana, but the second you try to grab it and eat it, it just bursts into flames. It's a world where all your earthly cravings become an endless, unfulfillable torture. Okay, so this brings up a huge question, doesn't it? If being attached to worldly things can lead you down these dark spiritual paths, does that mean being wealthy is just bad? Well, the speaker's answer to that is a very firm and kind of surprising no. And this is where he just completely flips the script. He argues that wealth isn't some sin you should run away from, it's actually a powerful tool for doing good. And not only that, he says that good people have a spiritual responsibility to become rich. So he lays out this really clear three-step path to what he calls righteous prosperity. You earn it by serving others, you stay humble about it, and then you use it to give back. But he frames this as more than just a moral choice. It's a practical one. Because he asks, just think about it. What kind of world do we live in if only the selfish people have all the money and all the power? So for him, trying to become prosperous with a spirit of service isn't selfish at all. In fact, it's an essential duty. It's how we better humanity as a whole. And this is the foundation for his final, really grand vision. He brings it all home with one last massive call to action, to start thinking about our entire economic system as a kind of spiritual practice. So in what he calls utopia economics, Working for the good of everyone isn't just a nice, noble idea. He sees it as the ultimate strategy for success. The moment you start aiming to enrich all of society, you align yourself with all the positive forces in the universe. This one sentence really just sums up his entire argument, doesn't it? It's not about choosing between being a good person or being a rich person. He argues that the two are and absolutely must be deeply connected if we want any real personal success or societal progress. And that's the final provocative thought he leaves his audience with. It takes this huge, cosmic, spiritual idea and brings it right back down to a very personal question for every single one of us. What world, both here and in the hereafter, are you building with your thoughts, right here, right now?